Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Baylor Baseball Podcast. I'm here with Coach Zach Dillon. We're going to be kind of going over some off-season stuff. So, Coach, welcome to the program.
Hey, it's good to be here, Levi. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so we'll kind of start with Baylor going to the transfer portal, and we'll end up with some kind of recruiting stuff going into this summer. And so, first year back at Baylor, not kind of how it didn't go the way you wanted. What were some of your main takeaways?
Well, I think, when we first took the job, obviously anytime you start anew and you bring in, a brand new staff, a lot of new players. I think we had 31 new players starting in the fall. There is a gray area as far as knowing what exactly you have. And you obviously walk into the job with a plan, and that plan shifts and changes, on a day-to-day basis now in our world. But, I think number one, first and foremost, was to change the culture. Bring back the family atmosphere to the ballpark, bring back the family atmosphere amongst our players and our team. And certainly that starts with us as coaches. And I thought, for priority number one and goal number one, we achieved that and we executed that, and I think our exit interviews with the players after the years certainly indicated that we did a good job at that. So, obviously the wins and losses were not what anybody wants or expects. And we feel really good and positive about our direction moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've been around, both you and Mitch have both been around really, really good teams. So in the fall, you kind of had a good idea that this wasn't going to be the greatest team, but did you know it was going to be 20-35?
Well, I think the toughest part of knowing is obviously, when you're playing your fall inter squads, we obviously knew we were limited in some areas, as far as the talent standpoint. You never know how guys are going to react once the bright lights come on, and that's a bunch of guys that haven't played before. So there's really a lot of, uncertainty as far as how that's going to play out. And we had some guys make huge steps forward throughout the spring that maybe we weren't expecting to do as well as they did. I think the hardest part, for us in the fall is you're running pitchers out there for 2-3 inning stints, and maybe there's some, success in those outings, but how's that going to translate, and obviously at times on the mound this year, it didn't translate very well. Mm-hmm. So, as the season goes on, you get a better picture of who you are and where you need to go. Mm-hmm. And we think we've done some work and did some work throughout last summer and the fall to improve those areas. And we're certainly still hard at it right now, trying to fix some of those or fill some of those holes that we feel like need to be filled.
Mm-hmm. Overall, do you feel a little more positive about the direction of the offense and the defense as opposed to kind of the pitching staff?
I think we need to work in a lot of areas. And I think, everybody wants to lean on recruiting in that area. I do feel like we've got a bunch of really good pieces to develop and grow with. You talk about a guy like Colby Branch, another guy like Hunter Toplansky. Those are guys that are going to be here for multiple years that we feel like we can grow and develop with. That both those guys should have an opportunity to play professional baseball by the end of their career here. And then you look on the mound. And I think on the mound this year, it was a little blurry because some of the bigger pieces that we were counting on, a Petrowski or a Rogers, and even guys like Colin McKinney that came in out of high school with a big arm, and Tanner Duke with what we think is going to be really good pitchability. Those guys weren't able to help us at all. So already, I think we've upgraded just with those guys being healthy and able to do it. So, I think it's a team, for us, it's a team concept. If we don't pitch, we're not going to win. If we don't swing the bats, we're not going to win. So we're really trying to build the complete team and get all the guys developed and ready to compete at the highest level to win championships.
And so kind of going back into that culture, what did that look like in the first year? How do you think the guys really responded to that family atmosphere?
I think it was a very welcome change for the guys that have been here. And I think the guys that were coming in were very surprised by how together we were from day one forward. Mm-hmm. How together the staff was, how committed we were to the process and to the job itself. But as a staff, there's still adjustments and a period of time where you've got to evaluate what you've got. And so we spent a fair amount of the fall, right or wrong, getting to know our people and building relationships with the kids, building relationships with each other. We obviously all knew each other, but working day in and day out together, there's some learning that goes into that of everything you're trying to get accomplished and do. So I feel like we were very well received. not only from our team, but from the Baylor family and Baylor baseball. The alumni and all the past that has gone into this place. I thought we did a really nice job of doing that early in the fall. And then we need to continue to build those relationships, because at the end of the day, our job is to build those relationships and get these guys grown up and get them on into their life. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. The wins and losses are great. The championships are great. That's what we all remember. That's what we're here to do. But once all that's gone, what's left? And we want to make sure that, the relationships at the end of the day are still the most important thing to us.
Mm-hmm. Losing is kind of hard on everybody, but I never got the vibe that the clubhouse like went off the rails. Was that kind of impressive or surprising to you?
I thought it was. I think it, and there's challenges to winning and losing because we all pour so much into it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't feel like you've got the best people, winning and losing is always going to create, an emotion, amongst a group of guys that, hey, we're pouring our heart and soul into this thing. We're not getting any results. And it's tough on everybody. It's tough on the coaching staff. It's tough on the administration. It's tough on the players for sure. But I think at the end of the day, our emotions can't control our behavior, and you've got to continue to show up and fight and press on and keep developing the guys. And I think as a staff, we did a really nice job of not letting what's already happened affect what's going on today. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably the overriding theme of the spring. Like, hey, even going into the last week of the year, we're out of contention for the Big 12 tournament. But the theme was, hey, man, we got 4 more opportunities to go play and continue to get better and grow as a group. And I think, being 4-0 in that last week, carrying us into the summertime and next fall was a big deal. And it showed some resiliency. It showed some fight. There wasn't any quit. And I think the guys, it's a testament to our guys sticking together and having that, that bond in the clubhouse. It was what we're trying to create at the ground level of this.
Mm-hmm. I agree for sure. And so kind of moving into the transfer portal, I know we kind of talked about those freshman pitchers and Petrowski coming back next year, but do you have particular needs y'all want to fill in the portal?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're looking for impact players, guys that can impact the game and help us win games. Now, that could be an athletic outfielder that can do a lot of things. That could be an athletic middle infielder that's dynamic and can do a lot of things on the field to help us win. It could be a starting pitcher, and I think we had our struggles starting games this year, and that's one we've identified and talked about that, hey, man, we've got to develop some guys that can start games for us and get us into ball games and deeper into ball games with limited damage. So, those are the areas. But really, in a broad picture, we're looking for guys that can impact the game and help us win games. Mm-hmm. And, it's not a exact target always in this, sometimes you get what you're able to get. Mm-hmm. But I think if we impact enough, or if we target enough of the impact guys, we're going to end up a better club for it.
So there's not really a sweet spot right now of how many guys you want to bring in?
Well, we certainly need arms. We certainly need arms. And like I said, another position guy or two that could come in and play for us right away, or mm-hmm. It's probably the sweet spot. I think we're looking at 3 to 5. 3 to 5 additions probably.
Okay.
With our numbers and our scholarship
mm-hmm.
situation, and that number could fluctuate between, 3 all the way to 5, depending on a few factors.
I know Mitch kind of talked about this, and he doesn't want moving forward to have to bring in 60 guys in the fall and trim that down. And I know nobody wants that. No families want that, blah, blah, blah. But you're kind of going to have to do that this fall if you want to win. So is there a certain number y'all are trying to keep at?
Well, ideally, yeah, we're somewhere in that 50 ballpark. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be close to where we're at. I know last year, we had 57 guys here and it was too many, I believe. Now, mm-hmm. there's programs around the country that are at that every year and maybe more than that. We just believe that the culture is important. And when you go through a whole fall, it almost serves as a tryout instead of a team building exercise. So, we want to be able to build team and also give ourselves some freedom, to evaluate guys and build our best 40-man roster. The roster goes up to 40 next year. So we will have probably around 50 this fall. And I think traditionally anywhere between 47 and 50 is probably a good number to start with.
And kind of to build off of that, the portal opened yesterday. Only 3 guys from this year's roster have gone into it, and I think personally I expected a little more. So can you kind of explain how that attrition is going to work throughout this summer?
Yeah, I think Baylor's a special place. I think kids come to Baylor for a really specific reason. They either love Baylor, they really trust the people that are there on the coaching staff. And, so I think we did a really good job this year of making it an environment that people want to be in, and so, when you look at it, I think loyalty is a huge factor for us as a program. I think we can't be the people that are running guys in and out of here year after year. I think for us to build any kind of stability, people have to believe in who we are, what we're all about, and that's bringing guys in that we believe in and sticking with them and developing them. Now, there's arguments with the new transfer portal, and I guess it's not new anymore, but with the transfer portal and that you should be trying to rehaul and rebuild every year. I believe there's value in continuity. I believe there's value in player development. And I believe there's value in loyalty. So, when we look at those 3 factors, I think, our staff tends to lean heavily on those 3 things with bringing in the right pieces every summer that can help elevate us to the level we want to be at. So, the attrition, we'll see what happens. We'll see what some guys decide as the summer wears on. And we'll see what we're able to bring in. So it's kind of a constantly shifting and moving puzzle and target we're trying to hit. But I believe that, our hearts are in the right place. I believe we're also extremely competitive and want to win. And we've got some plans in place to definitely make a big move this next fall and into the spring.
When you want to build your program on loyalty, how tough is that to divide the 11.7 scholarships among everybody?
It's a good question. It's hard, and it's hard at a place where, school's not the cheapest, so most players on our team, we weren't their cheapest option, so they're having to really, like I said, most people come to Baylor because they love Baylor or they really believe and trust the coaching staff that's in their sport. Us being a non-equivalency sport, we're asking guys to pay quite a bit of money to come play in a lot of circumstances. And so there's a niche type kid we're after, in a lot of ways. We're looking for a great student that's going to get some financial help on the academic side. We're looking for kids from great families with Christian values that value a faith-based education. And Baylor is really a unicorn in that sense, in that I believe it's one of the only institutions in the country where you can come get a top 20 degree in the country. You can get a faith-based education. You can have a Power 5, Big 12 college experience with good football, good basketball, things to do in an up-and-coming town. And you also get Power 5, Big 12 baseball for our staff. So I believe those 4 prongs are kind of what we stand on and sell. And it's not a hard sell. It's a special place.
How huge would it be in a couple of years if the NCAA gets rid of that 11.7?
I believe for a program like ours or some just like it, I think it's a huge deal, and it tends to mitigate some of the NIL troubles as well. My thought process on NIL, and I believe Baylor's thought process, is to be competitive, to be in it, to not be left behind. When you think about the non-equivalency sports, I think it's just another added layer of cost cutting, trying to mitigate or lessen the burden on families that maybe they want to come to Baylor, but maybe, $40,000 a year we can't do. But, maybe, in the NIL area, if we can get them another $10,000 a year, maybe that gets us a yes instead of a no. So, that's the way I look at it. We're certainly not ever going to be in the realm of being able to, do what some of the other programs across the country are trying to do. And I don't think we have to win. I think it would just help us to have, a little bit more money to sweeten the pot for some of the guys that are on the fence on us. But,
yeah. Right now, do you feel like Baylor's at a disadvantage NIL wise?
I don't. I think there's a lot of hype and hysteria around the country over what some other programs are doing. And I believe in our administration. I believe in us being on being on the front edge of anything that's going on when it comes to competitive athletics. We've seen it over the last decade in football and basketball for sure. And I believe baseball, the things we're up against, we're daily figuring out and formulating plans to find our niche in the recruiting world and getting the right guys in. But like I said before, we want guys that want Baylor. We want guys that want Baylor, but they have to be of the level that keeps us in the top part of the Big 12 or gets us to the top part of the Big 12 year in and year out, gives us a chance to play for national championships. So, as we continue to grow and develop our program and our brand, I think all those things are going to get better.
A week ago on our show, Mac Rhodes came on. He was saying that each year there needs to be $5 million between football, women's basketball, and men's basketball. But he didn't mention baseball. So in modern recruiting, when you're trying to recruit those niche type kids, is NIL something that comes up a lot?
Not a ton with us. If we're going head to head with certain schools, probably in the SEC and maybe a few in our league, there's some underlying tones that state, hey, maybe these guys have something we don't, from a financial standpoint. But college baseball's never been on a level playing field, ever. And there's programs, with similar situations to ours financially that have found ways to win and do it at a high level. We're constantly looking at resources to be able to bring players in. And now with the transfer portal, there's some other things with graduate programs and funding and academic money that may give us some opportunities there to bring some kids in that maybe otherwise weren't being brought in prior. So, we're constantly looking at how we can better our roster and better our club and get kids to say yes. And we'll continue to push on and do so.
Back to that 11.7, are y'all is the coaching staff expecting that to be repealed in the next couple of years?
There was talks of it pretty hot and heavy during the fall, and they've kind of slowed down. So, you never know with those types of things and when they're going to be passed and how they're going to be passed. We certainly are keeping our fingers crossed for it, but, we've got to operate in the state we're in. And, so we're constantly trying to figure out how to divvy that money up most efficiently and how to add on to it with academic packages or what have you.
How stressful is that? Is that your main job, kind of dividing that?
Yeah, between Coach and I, between Coach Thompson and I, we, I'm the one that's seeing a lot of the players, so I've got to assess their value to us, and but typically, if there's a big time arm out there, you're gonna have to compete hard for them and give them a pretty good chunk of money. The premium positions behind the plate. If you're going to get a really good one, you're probably going to have to pay something for them. Same thing in the middle of the field with a shortstop that you feel like is going to play shortstop every day for you. And then as you move around the field, standout tools, premium power, premium athleticism. If there's standout tools somewhere across the board, you're probably going to have to go to battle and pay some money for them. So, that's really important. But also the guys that fill in kind of that bottom half of the roster, what you do with those guys. Can you get the guys for 25% or the walk-on type guys that can produce for you? And, I know our teams in the past, that was something Coach Thompson did a phenomenal job with. I believe our Omaha team, Reed Breeze is a great example. Reed Breeze is hitting in our 5-hole every day and one of the top hitters in the Big 12, and he's on no money, and guys like, I think 2 of the other starting outfielders were walk-ons on that team. Abe Woody, one of the better bullpen pieces, was a low-money scholarship guy. Huge valuable members of that Omaha run were on very little money. But they were guys that loved Baylor and believed in the staff at the time and wanted to be here and have the opportunity to play at that level. So
with rosters being expanded to 40 next year, I would imagine that's going to be really important moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's always been important. Now I think, you want to make those spots count. You want to make those spots count. So there's as much evaluation and work going into that part of it than the big scholarship guys sometimes. Sometimes the big scholarship guys are easy. You know what they are. You work your tail off to get them. You get them on campus. You show them the whole thing and give them the whole sell, and it's up to them then to say yes. Sometimes, you can do your best work by finding the guys that that really want the opportunity, really love Baylor, and they can help you. Finding the ones that can help you is the key, not just saying yes to whoever wants to come, but really being tactful in how you go about those spots is important too.
When you identify kind of those players you want from the transfer portal this summer or future recruits, how tough is it going to be to kind of show a vision when they just see their record from this year?
Yeah, I think there's a story with every era of Baylor baseball or any era of any sports team, and the story right now, we're in chapter 1. And it's the beginning, and I think we're about to start chapter 2, which is kind of our response to what we've learned over the last 12 months. And the vision is to play for a national championship and to win a national championship. But you go into we call it our Legends room now, that Coach Rodriguez put together in there. Baylor baseball has achieved just about anything you can other than winning a national title, and that's our bar, that's our goal, and we're going to continue to work hard to achieve that. And as far off as it seemed this year, it's not that far off. If you swing 8 of those games, those close games, one way or the other, and, we get the big hit or we get the big shutdown inning, you may be looking at a 500 record or a couple games above with personnel that wasn't quite ready to play at that level, and so I don't believe we're that far off. I think we feel really, really good about what we've got coming in. It'll be young for the most part, but we've also added some junior college pieces that we feel like are going to step in and play right away. And if we do a good job over the next month and a half, 2 months with what we're adding, I feel like, we go into the fall with a much more loaded deck and a much better understanding of where we're at. Bringing in 6 new guys to run an organization with a bunch of pieces they're unfamiliar with, there's some growing pains in that, and there's a learning curve in that, and how everything's going to operate and what we're looking forward to do with those guys. Now we have a really good baseline understanding of where we're at, what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and I just think we're all much more equipped and ready to go into the fall with a player development mindset.
With the new coaching staff, is it kind of by year 2 or by year 3 that you fully feel like everything is kind of yours, you've implemented everything you want?
I think in this circumstance, with where we started, I think year 3 is a pretty good target to have that set. But I don't like timelines or labels. Who knows what happens? Baseball's a funny game, and we could get hot and have the guys rolling and implement and do everything we want to do by Christmas of next year. It's hard to say. I mean, the plan is to continue to push as hard as we can, as long as we can, and see where we end up. And that goes into everything. I think there's 4 prongs to that. As far as recruiting, player development, fundraising, whether that be for facilities or NIL money, however that works. And obviously the NIL stuff, you can't fundraise for, but there's continuing to learn about it and push and figure out how we can elevate our club by utilizing it. And then, obviously just our culture, the brand we want to put out there, what we want people to think about our program and who we are. And obviously, there's some identity pieces that are still in the works as far as who we want to be. We want to be hard-nosed, blue-collar, tough, baseball players. That's who we want to be. We want to be together. We want to embody team. And I think all those things are in the works, and we've got a really good start on that.
There's kind of some facility upgrades on the horizon potentially?
Yeah, I think there's been talks of that. And I think there's some fundraising being done for that. And quite honestly, the Baylor ballpark, when it was built, helped me get here. And it was one of the top 2 or 3 facilities in the country. But not a lot's changed, and a lot's changed around us. The state of college baseball now versus 20 years ago is the biggest difference is people's commitment to it from the top down, and then how hard everybody's working at it. You've got 300 programs across the country that are really working to win, and I'm not sure that was always the case. So, facilities, we can certainly use some catch up in that area, but I believe in, like I said, I believe in our administration. I believe in the product we're going to put out on the field that elevates us to to that status as well.
On a closing note, kind of how excited are you for this summer, and how excited are you going into year 2?
We're excited, and I said that I used the storybook thing with our staff a couple different times throughout the spring. Hey, we're in chapter 1. Like, we can't get down because of the results going on the field right now. It's easy to. It's easy to kind of clam up and not feel real great about it, but we're building, and we're doing it one brick at a time, and it may take a little more time than we thought. And okay, so maybe we got to push a little harder. Maybe we got to work a little smarter, and all those things are, talked about on a daily basis. I'm excited about year 2. I think, we definitely started from the bottom. We started from the bottom and we're working up from that. But we're excited about the challenge and the opportunity that presents to us. And at the end of the day, it's about building and growing these young men and, winning baseball games. So we know what's in front of us and we know how to do it. We've got a lot of guys with a lot of experience that have done it before. So we're excited about, the summer and seeing what we can do to the roster and making those additions that we feel like can impact our club next year. And I believe, Baylor baseball is going to take a huge jump forward next year in a lot of ways. So we're excited about the next 12 months for sure and looking forward to see where we're at next year at this time.
All right, well, Coach, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on here, and it'll be a fun off season. So
absolutely. Thank you, Levi. I appreciate it.